Yes, indeed, my dear friends of history and lovers of intrigue. Welcome. Glad to have you here. You know how they say, just when everything seems to be going well, suddenly? Well, we have arrived exactly at such a moment.
When the date showed January 15th, 1947, Los Angeles, the city of angels. But that morning, as the sun rose over Leimert Park, a scene unfolded that the angels had long since abandoned. It was early in the morning. The air was cool, the sky gray. A mother, unaware of everything, was out for a walk on Norton Avenue with her 3-year-old daughter. In the empty lot by the sidewalk, she saw a white object among the tall grass. At first glance, she thought it was a broken store mannequin. The skin was so pale, the posture so lifeless, that she could not imagine a human body looking like that. But as she got closer, the horrifying details on that mannequin began to sharpen. And at that moment, the woman's scream tore through the silence of Los Angeles. What she saw was not a mannequin. It was the body of 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, or whatever was left of her. She wished she had never lived to see this day. Even the first officers arriving at the scene immediately realized that they were standing before the most brutal sight they would likely encounter in their entire careers. Elizabeth Short's body had been severed in two at the waist. With surgical precision, it had been cut cleanly through the spine. The upper and lower halves were placed just a few inches apart, as if arranged like a twisted piece of artwork. Her arms were raised above her head and her legs were left spread open. But the detail that turned this scene into a true nightmare was not the blood, because there was no blood at all. The killer had murdered Elizabeth elsewhere, drained every drop of blood from her body, washed her and cleaned her. This was not an act of rage. This was cold, calculated, and time-consuming ritual work. The killer had spent hours, perhaps even days, with the victim. The images of brutality refused to fade from their minds. As the officers examined the corpse, they noticed that horrific signature on her face, a cut known as the Glasgow smile. Deep slashes extended from the corners of her mouth to her ears, giving Elizabeth a permanent, frozen, grotesque, clown-like grin. The beautiful young woman with blue eyes had now become the darkest secret of Los Angeles. Who had committed this atrocity, and why? And more importantly, who was Elizabeth Short? Hollywood is a neon-lit dream for thousands of young women. Elizabeth was one of them. She left Massachusetts and came to California with dreams of fame. Her black hair, porcelain white skin, and her fondness for wearing black earned her the nickname the Black Dahlia, a reference to the then popular film The Blue Dahlia. She loved dressing in dark colors. She had an air of mystery about her. But behind Hollywood's glittering streets, Elizabeth's life,
she lived like a ghost, a faint, fading figure. She had no fixed address. She stayed in cheap hotels, boarding houses, and sometimes on the couches of people she had only just met. She worked as a waitress, chased background acting jobs, and hoped that one day she would be discovered. But fate had chosen a cruel twist. She would be discovered, not on a movie set, but in that empty lot on Norton Avenue. Her death brought her the fame she had dreamed of, but the price was so horrific that it defied imagination. When the investigation began, the Los Angeles Police Department, or LAPD, launched one of the largest manhunts in its history. Hundreds of detectives were assigned. Thousands of people were questioned. But from day one, the case turned into a media circus. Newspapers dissected every detail of Elizabeth's life. They labeled her a drifter, a temptress. In truth, she was simply a lost soul, a young woman searching for identity in a country emerging from the shadows of war. The intense media attention also caught the killer's eye. 9 days after the murder, an anonymous envelope arrived at the offices of the Los Angeles Examiner. On the front was a ransom-style note constructed from cut-out newspaper letters. "Here is Dahlia's belongings." Inside were Elizabeth's birth certificate, photographs, and an address book belonging to a nightclub owner named Mark Hansen. The envelope and its contents had been wiped down with gasoline. No fingerprints, no trace. The killer was playing games with the press and the police. He was confident. He was certain he would never be caught. The address book's owner, Mark Hansen, became one of the top suspects. Elizabeth had stayed at his home and had a complicated relationship with him. But Hansen insisted he was innocent, and the police found no concrete evidence to implicate him. The suspect list grew longer and longer. Soldiers, doctors, bartenders. Even more bizarre, around 25 people in Los Angeles voluntarily went to the police claiming, "I did it," offering false confessions. Some were mentally ill. Others simply wanted a share of the dark notoriety surrounding the case. The police struggled to distinguish the real killer from the noise. Things were beginning to spiral out of control. But the detail that troubled the detectives the most was the method of the killing. Hemicorporectomy. In other words, the complete severing of the body at the waist. This was not something an ordinary butcher could do. The cut, made cleanly between the bones and without damaging the internal organs, required serious anatomical knowledge and surgical skill. That shifted the focus toward the medical community. Among the suspects, one name stood out prominently: Dr. George Hodel. Intelligent, charismatic, yet burdened with a dark past. Hodel's home hosted wild parties attended by Hollywood's elite, and rumor had it that nothing was off-limits at these gatherings. Police planted listening devices inside his house. In the recordings, chilling lines were heard from Hodel speaking to himself. "Suppose I did kill the Black Dahlia. They can't prove it now. My secretary is dead, so she can't talk." Despite statements that sounded like confessions, Hodel was never arrested. Whether it was corruption within the police department or simply a lack of concrete evidence that protected him remains unknown to this day. When the investigation began to cool, Hodel fled the country, escaping to Asia and leaving behind nothing but questions. Years later, Hodel's own son wrote books claiming his father was the Black Dahlia killer, and many researchers found his evidence compelling. Yet officially, the case remained open. Months and years passed after the murder. As always, the files were placed on dusty shelves. Elizabeth Short's body was laid to rest, but her spirit lingered in the streets of Los Angeles. Houses were built on that empty lot in Leimert Park. Families moved in. Children played. But the horror of that morning never truly faded from the city's memory. The Black Dahlia murder was not merely the killing of a woman. It marked the moment post-war America lost its innocence. The moment the rotten teeth beneath Hollywood's shining smile became visible. Elizabeth Short came to the city to become famous, and in the most brutal way imaginable, she did. Today, nearly a century after Elizabeth's death, the killer's identity is still shrouded in mystery. Who performed that surgical cut? Who carved that horrific smile? What happened in Elizabeth's final hours? The answers to those questions went to the grave along with the killer. Perhaps the most terrifying possibility is that the murderer lived among ordinary people, hiding in plain sight. A man who went to work each morning, greeted his neighbors, perhaps even loved his children. Yet in the darkest corner of his mind, carried the memory of that foggy morning on Norton Avenue and the monstrous artwork he created. The Black Dahlia became more than an unsolved case. It became a testament to how dark human nature can become. Elizabeth Short was a victim of her own dreams, and Los Angeles never managed to catch the monster it created. All that remains are black and white photographs, yellowed newspaper clippings, and unanswered questions. And of course, that horrific smile, a silent scream that never fades and is never forgotten.
See you in the second unsolved case. For now, take care and please stay tuned.